else on it. You should get a Tuesday paper if you don't have one. In number 1, what I want you to do, it says select all of the inequalities that are true when x is 5. So that means you're taking 5 and just plugging it in for x. Plug in 5 for x, 5 for x, 5 for x, 5 for x, 5 for x. And you're just evaluating, is this true or is it false? So look at the first one, 5 is less than 2. True or false? False. So don't select it, don't put a check mark next to it. That's it. That's all you're doing in number 1. In number 2, it's kind of the same thing, except this time we don't just have x, we have x and we have y. So you're plugging in the first number for x, and you're plugging in the second number for y. So that first one becomes 0 plus 2 times 0 is less than 7. Yeah? You're evaluating that, true or false. If it's true, circle it. If it's false, don't circle it. That's it. And then once you figure those out, you're going to find some of them are solutions and some of them are not. And you want to look at the graph and think, which side of the graph do I want to shade on, depending on what you find out from here. See what you can remember from yesterday. And then in 2.2, that's 2.2, decide how you're going to shade the graph. And then down here, we have this inequality, and the boundary line is graphed. And Aiden, notice that 0, 0 is not a solution. This is not a solution. So if that is not a solution, I want you to determine how is that going to help you figure out the rest of the graph? How is it going to help you figure out what side to shade on? Okay? So you're going to do 1, 2, 3. If you finish 1, 2, 3, you could start working on the other side. I'm going to come around and check it in just a minute. So get to work on 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay. So when I plug in 5 for x, that first one was false. What about the second one? 5 is less than 10. True. So we check it. 5 is less than 5. False. Okay. 5 is greater than or equal to 5. True. 5 is greater than or equal to 8. False. Okay, now let's try these. So in these, we're not just plugging in a number for x, we're plugging in a number for x and for y, right? So if I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, got 0 plus 2 times 0. What's 2 times 0? And what's 0 plus 0? Is 0 less than 7? Yeah, so that works. That's a solution. What about 7, 0? I plug in 7 for x and 0 for y. I've got 7 plus 2 times 0 is less than 7. What's 2 times 0? 0. And then what's 0 plus 7? 7. Is 7 less than 7? No, that's false, right? So that's not a solution. 0, 7. Plug in 0 for x, 7 for y. So I've got 0 plus 2 times 7. What's 2 times 7? What's 14 plus 0? Is 14 less than 7? No, that's false. Not a solution. 10, 0. If I plug in 10 for x, 0 for y, I've got 10 plus 2 times 0. What's 2 times 0? 0 plus 10? Is 10 less than 7? No, it's not, right? Not a solution, okay? So if I look at this on the graph, this is 2.2. If I look at all of these points, I've got 0, 0. This is a solution. And then my 7, 0 right here, that's not a solution. 0, 7 is not a solution. And 10, 0 is not a solution. So what side of the line am I going to shade? The bottom side has my solution on it, so I have to shade down here. Okay? right? Because that's a side that contains the solution. And really, when I look at this, right, my inequality says x plus 2y is less than 7. Should this have a solid line? Should this have a solid line? Why not? Yeah, it's not less than or equal to. It should be a dotted line instead, not the solid line. Wow, I'm all over the place today, right? And that's why this point right here, 7, 0, that's not a solution. If it was a dotted line, you could tell that the points on that line are not solutions. If it was a solid line, it would work. Okay, and then this last one. So we know that 0, 0 is not a solution. So how can I use that information to tell me what side to shade? So 0, 0 is not a solution. So how does knowing that tell me what side to shade? Exactly. I shade the bottom. I think I was just asking in a weird way. Yeah. So 0, 0 is not a solution. So that tells me I have to shade the other side, right? So I shade the bottom. And we call this side that's shaded, we call it the solution set. The solution set. All right, let's flip over to the other side of the paper and we're going to remember what we talked about yesterday. So the other side of the paper. Oops. Clear. Yes. Okay, and we're going to look at these two multiple choice questions first. So number 7 and 8. 7 and 8. Okay, so what we're doing in 7 and 8 is they give us this inequality and we need to match it to the right graph. Which graph is the right one for this inequality? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this inequality and kind of pull out some information that we know about the graph. So let's start by thinking about y equals mx plus b. Let's figure out our m and our b. What's the b of this inequality? What's the y-intercept? Huh? The y-intercept, -2. -2. So my y-intercept should be at -2. What is my slope? Good, -1. -1, right? That means go down 1 over 1. Okay, so now I know my slope is -1. My y-intercept is -2. What else do I know about the graph from this inequality that they give us? What else do I know about it? Yeah. Do you not?
No, we have a different paper.
Sorry. My bad. This one? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, let's back up. M and B. What's my slope? What's the slope of this one that you guys have? Slope, yeah. 3. And what's my y-intercept? 2. Okay, so I know I have a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of 2. What else do I know about my graph from the inequality? It's a positive slope, you're right. What's different about, what's different between A and B? Yeah, what kind of line do I need to have? What kind of line does that inequality tell me I need to have? Dotted, right? It's just greater than. This kind has a dotted line. So I know my graph has to be dotted. And then let's check and see whether 0, 0 should be a solution or not. If I plug in 0, 0 for x and for y, then I end up with 0, right? 0 for x, 0 for y. 0 is greater than, what's 3 times 0? And 0 plus 2? Is 0 greater than 2? No, it's false. So does that mean 0, 0 is a solution or is not a solution? It's not a solution. So 0, 0 should not be in the solution set. So look at the graphs on your paper. Look at the graphs on your own and try and figure out which graphs don't work. Which graphs would not work according to this criteria. It should have a slope of positive 3. It should have a y-intercept of 2. Should have a dotted line. And 0, 0 should not be in the solution set. So tell me a graph that doesn't work for that. C? Why doesn't C work? Good, yeah, 0, 0 is in the solution set, so C cannot be the answer. What's another one that doesn't work? D. D doesn't work. Good. D won't work because 0, 0 again is in the solution set. And why else? It's got a negative slope, doesn't it? It needs to have a positive slope. Okay, so between A and B, which is the right answer? Why B? Yeah, A is a solid line, so A won't work. It has to be B. Yay. Okay. Number 8, I want you to do on your own. But before you do number 8, I want to take some notes with you, and I want to do a little bit of the other side with you. So at the very bottom of your paper here, we're going to take some notes together. Okay, so when we want to graphing two variable inequalities. We've got 3 steps. 3 steps. First step, plot points using N and B. What am I talking about when I say N and B? What do I mean when I say N and B? Yes. What? Slope and y-intercept. What letter is the slope and what letter is the y-intercept? Yes. N is the slope. B is the y-intercept. What do you start with, the slope or the y-intercept? Start with the y-intercept, then use your slope. So now you've got 2 points on your line, right? And before you draw the line between them, you've got to ask yourself this. Ask, dashed line or solid line? Dashed or solid line? What kind of inequalities use a dashed line? No line, less than or greater than. It's the same as, it's like the open circle. Solid line, we use less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. It's like the closed circle, right? This is dashed, solid. Okay, so now I've plotted my y-intercept, I've used my slope to draw my other point, I figured out whether I use dashed or solid, and I connect the points together. Then what's the final step? What's the last thing I need to do to finish my inequality graph? Shade it. I have to decide if I'm going to shade above or shade below. Okay. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, if it's greater than or equal to, you shade above the line. So if you're going to guess, use this. Okay? Huh? No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about a lot of people. Might as well make an educated guess if you're going to guess, right? And then if it's less than or less than or equal to, usually it's just below the line. But sometimes it's just hard to tell. Sometimes I don't really know why, but it's just like weird. My mind plays tricks on me, I think. But what you can do to always check it is you can test your point. You can test 0, 0, usually 0, 0, right? By plugging in that first number for x, second number for y, and you can do that testing to find the solution set. Okay, we'll do some practice with this in just a sec. All right, just put your pencils down when you're ready so I know when I can switch off this screen. Good? Anybody else? Okay. 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 Are you done, Luis? No? Be nice. They're picking on fish back there too on the board. And I guess you're picking on yourself. You're good, Luis.
Someone rewrote it. That's not
Okay, let's practice this. Number 1. So what's the first thing you need to do? What does it say in your notes? What's the first step for graphing? Very good. So first thing we need to do is figure out what is M and what is B. Zell, I'm going to pick on you because your phone's out. What's B? What's the y-intercept in number 1? Yes, you do. Yeah, -2. Good. What's M? 1/2. So what do I do to start? Start at -2. Good. Okay, and then what do I do? Very good. Up 1/2. Up 1/2. There we go. I've plotted my points. Now what's my next step? Before I draw my line, what question do I need to ask? What does it say for number 2 in your notes? Yeah, dotted or solid line, dashed or solid? Solid, right? It's less than or equal to, so solid line. And then what's the last thing I need to do? Good. What am I going to do? It says less than, so what do I do? Good, below, less than, we shade below. And so you can do that, and that's fine. And most of the time, you'll probably just get it right, and it's fine. But if you want to like know for sure, and you want to double check yourself, then you can plug in a point. You plug in 0, 0. So if I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, right, I get 0 and then 0. So 0 is less than or equal to 1/2 times 0, 1/2 times 0 minus 2. Right, and we plug in 0, 0 because it's easy to solve in our head. What's 1/2 times 0? 0. So I'm just checking, is 0 less than or equal to -2? Is that true or false? That's false. 0 is greater than -2, right? That means 0, 0 is not a solution. That's why I shaded down here, right? Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, let's do number 2 together as well. What's my first step? Plot points using M and B. What's M? What's my slope? 3/4. What's my B? What's the y-intercept? 0. 0. Remember, if there's not a number in front of x, then the slope is 1. But if there's not a plus b, right, I'm not adding anything. It's like I'm adding nothing, right? So b is 0. So 0 would then be my starting point, and then where do I go from there? Good. Up 3/4. Up 3/4. And then what do I think to myself before I draw my line? Dotted and dashed is the same. I know, but dotted and dashed is the same thing. Dotted or solid? I know, I knew what you meant, but dotted or solid, which do I use? Solid. Solid. And then what? Shade above or shade below? Below. It's less than, so I'm going to shade below. Right? And then I could test myself and make sure that I'm right. If I plug in, but this is the funny one. If my line crosses through 0, 0, then I can't use 0, 0 to test. I have to test a point that's not on the line. So what's a point that's not on the line? Huh? 1, 1 is not on the line. Good. So let's test 1, 1 instead. 1 for x, 1 for y. If I plug in 1 for y, 1 for x, I get 1 is less than or equal to 3/4 times 1. What's 3/4 times 1? 3/4. Is 1 less than or equal to 3/4? No, that's false. 1 is greater than 3/4. Right? False. So I shaded it right because 1, 1 is not a solution. So I'm good shading below. Okay? Can we handle that? Do you want to see one more or do you want to go on your own? One more? I heard a couple one mores. What one do you want to do? 3, 4, 5, or 6? All right. What's my first step? Plot points. Find M and B. What's my M? Perfect. -7/4. -7/4. So then what do I do? Oh, and then what's my y-intercept? -4. So where do I start? And then what do I do? Negative, right? But if I try and go down 7, I'm going to run out of graph, aren't I? So we can go in reverse. It's like you're backing up a car. Go backwards. Go left and then up. Left and then up. Because that makes my negative slope, right? If I went up 7/4, I'd have a positive slope. That's wrong. Right? I got to go backwards. Okay, and then what do I think before I draw my line? Dotted or solid, yeah. Which one? Dotted, dashed, same difference. Okay, dashed line, dotted line. And now what do I need to figure out? What's the last thing I got to figure out? Shade above or shade below? Shade above because it's greater than. So shade above. And I can check myself if I want. Right, if I check 0, 0, plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, I'd end up with 0 is greater than negative 7/4 times 0 minus 4. What's negative 7/4 times 0? 0. And what's 0 minus 4?
0. Negative 4.
Is 0 greater than negative 4?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. So that tells me 0, 0 is a solution. So I did it right. I shaded correctly. I've got 0, 0 in the solution set. All right? Clear?
Yep.
Questions? All right. I am going to grade one of these other ones. 4, 5, or 3, 4, or 5.
Which one?
Depends. If I come over and I grade, it just depends. So you need to get at least one done. But if I come over and grade that one and you get 0 out of 4 points on it, then you'll have to do another one. And I would suggest that you do all 3 of them because you have 20 minutes. It's not that much work. And the only way you're going to get better is by practicing. And then, yes, I'm also going to grade number 8. I'm going to grade that other multiple choice one as well. Okay? And let me just tell you really quick how I grade these. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm looking for the y-intercept. I'm looking for the correct y-intercept. I'm looking for a correct second point. So I need to be able to see that you knew how to put in the right slope. So there's 2 points I'm looking for. And then I'm looking to make sure you're using the right line, dashed or solid. And I'm looking to make sure you shaded the right area. So that's 4 total points, okay, that I'm looking for.
Wait, what was the last one?
Whether you shaded or not.